What does it take to get beyond the damage of words? I'm Katrina Collier. Join me each week as I explore what it takes to step into a happier future. My guests are sharing their stories of when they realised that they needed help and what it took to take that first step, so that you leave inspired and maybe even start on your own path to self-love, care, compassion, and of course, happiness. So without further ado, let's hear their stories. Steve Usher, welcome to Beyond the Damage of Words podcast, which I managed to say this time, which is awesome.
Well done, well done.
So exciting to talk to you. I, of course, have known you for years, and I must thank you and Chris Wall for getting me onto design thinking, which is the business side of everything we talk about. However, of course, we've always strayed off onto the weird and wonderful, and you've seen my gifts firsthand, which is actually, you're one of the few. I'm coming out. But I wanted to talk to you about your journey and your healing. So, without further ado, what led you to start working on yourself? What prompted it? Did you have a big aha moment, or it was just a?
Yeah, I mean, I you know what, I thought about this a lot over the years and the journey that I've been on, and it's just such a triangulation of things that came together for me. So I was like 38, 39. That year, or my dad had a very long journey with cancer, and that kind of my 39th year was the year where he kind of he passed at the end of that year. And I think during that journey with him, it calls out a lot of stuff. I mean, when you know that a parent is going to die and it's going on a slow, regressive kind of journey, of course, it's going to off tilt you and make you question certain things. And so this kind of immortality thing kicks in. And then in addition to that, from a triangle kind of piece, I also I was coming up to 40. Yeah. And I'd had a business for 16.
It is a milestone.
It bloody is. And I wasn't expecting it. And I wasn't expecting the amount of disruption it was going to create. And I do recommend that anybody in this phase of life is to definitely just surround yourself with good people for that period, because it can have a really big impact. But it was happening. I mean, I was 39. It's a reality of where we are. And then also as well, I was like 16 years into a business, and I was just, I've always said it, I was blessed every day waking up. I love what I did. Like, I loved it, passionate, driven, And then just one day I woke up, I was like, I'm not enjoying this, and I don't want to be here. And I lost that passion for what I was doing. Yeah. And that all happened in about a 12-month stretch. So that combination of these things happening completely it removed my foundation in so many levels that have been so solid for so long. So that was, I would say, in a long and short answer to your question, that was what triggered it. So quite profound.
Actually, I think it's really good that it was at that age, though. I think there's this funny thing I hear all the time was, oh, I'm so old. Oh, I've left it too late. I wish I fell into it at 40. I genuinely fell into healing at 40. Now 12 years later, I'm so like, I don't look back and go, gosh, I wish it was the time. And I think that's it was the time. That's when
it was. And I like to put a spin on a spin, but whether it's trying to make myself feel good or whether it's just a thing, but it was a thing with my dad. I was actually, the one thing I'd say about my dad is he made the big calls in life and at the right time. And I've subsequently done that. And I think it was kind of I like to think it was his parting gift to me to be like, hey son, like, make some changes. Like, and it's going to be quite monumental to say the least. So brace yourself. It was and still is, and
still is
quite incredible. Yeah, the last 8 years.
All for the good. Insane. It probably didn't seem it at the time. So when you got to that point that you're like, okay, I need help. Like, this isn't going to plan. What did you do? Like, did you have that reality of like, oh my gosh, I need help? Or no, did you kind of slide your way into it slowly?
Not at first.
Was it a bit of denial?
Yeah, and this thing, grief. My dad passed in the December, and just after I turned 40 in the October, and that following year, I just tried to struggle on. I mean, you just tried to get on
Mm.
with it, right? And then, it was, yeah, this grief thing, and the way and the work that I did post the work that I did, and the way I can kind of articulate it to you is like,
Mm.
it was inside of me and around me, and it was a depth right in my chest and really deep.
Mhm.
It was this
Mhm.
sadness and grief that I just couldn't. I mean, I'd never had anything
Couldn't
like it
shift.
before. And I mean, we know each other very well, but
Yeah.
Nina and I have an amazing relationship, a wife,
Mm.
and I can say that's the only moment in our time together where we've actually had some challenges, because she just said to me, "Darling, you need some help," and
Yeah.
that was in the
You were building
following
a
year.
wall probably between you, the two of you.
Yeah, well, just my behaviour, the way I was withdrawn, I was down, I was, all the things that kind of come
Mm.
with it, and yeah, and
Is that actually, I
interestingly.
talked about that with Jeff Way. That's what men do, isn't it? They just
Oh
pull their head
God,
in
man
like a
cave.
turtle.
Yeah, yeah, man cave.
Man
Yeah,
cave.
man cave.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And I recognise my man cave now more than ever.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's a necessary place to go to. And as
Mm.
of course, what if you've got
For a
that level
time.
of understanding from Nina with my
Mm.
partner, she knows when I go into a man cave that it's a process sometimes, and
Mm-hmm.
that's also important. But yeah, I mean, obviously, as you know, I moved to Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
and I was back in London,
Yeah.
and I was struggling at that time, and I was standing
Mm.
back in Crouch End in North London where we lived, and I was standing
Mm-hmm.
in my favourite coffee shop. I ordered a flat white as usual, and I was standing there waiting for my coffee.
Yep.
And the girl behind the counter who I knew from before, we were just chatting. I was
Mm.
just standing there, and I was like, God, I think I need to find some help, a coach. I think I need a coach. I need to
Yeah.
find someone who's going to help me. And then all of a sudden, I looked across the coffee shop, and out of the toilet came Kirsty. And
Mm-hmm.
Kirsty and I had connected, but we never quite connected. We were meant to talk, but it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved to
Yep.
Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
And serendipity and this moment happened. And she said, "Oh, hey,
Mm.
Steve, how are you? I'm good. How's
Mm.
Sweden? Great, blah, blah, blah." And I said to her, "What are you up to these days?" And she said, "Oh, I'm a coach, and I help people with,
Yeah.
various things." And I was like, "You are kidding me."
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
I talk about that in the book.
Amazing. It's
When the
amazing.
universe has prodded you and it's like putting all the signs in front of you and it's like, wake
Yeah.
up, it's in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, crazy. And then we booked an hour session. I went to her house. We sat down,
Yeah.
and it was really funny because she had tissues. I remember that she had tissues on the table. I didn't spot them at first.
Yeah.
And we had an hour, and I just completely broke down. I mean, it was in pieces, and
Yeah.
the relief, even in that moment,
To get that energy
just
out.
how much I'd held on to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, madness. I remember phoning Nina afterwards, taking a walk, and just like sobbing and being uh, like apologizing, like, "I'm so sorry. Like this journey." It was just the release. It was mad.
It is a
Of what we went
release.
through.
Do you think some of that bottling is that stiff upper lip? Very British thing, isn't it? Hold it inside, don't cry. Was there some of that going on as well? So that, you felt that enormous, like, oh, I'm not carrying this now. Women are more inclined to like talk it out, cry it out. Do you think some of it's that makes men go in their caves?
100%. I mean, I think
Mm.
the thing is, I've also been on a self-discovery journey these last 8 years,
Yeah.
and I'd say part of that. So the short answer to that question is yes, definitely. I would say like my pre-40s, man cave.
Mm.
Don't talk about it. Just get on with it. It's okay.
Just
It'll
pretend all
pass.
is well. Put a mask
But
up.
I think one of the things about moving abroad, and when I moved to Sweden here in Stockholm,
Mm.
and what I didn't fully appreciate of when you move abroad is you remove everything. So every
Yeah.
single automated thing, like where do you get a pizza? Where's the best pharmacy to go to? The doctor. I mean, everything we take for granted now, which is in an automation phase, is new. Like you
Yeah.
have to figure it all. But how do I get a bus
Yeah.
from A to B? The amount of
Oh my
times I went
God.
in the wrong direction on the bus
You're
initially.
reminding me of the cheese aisle in Sainsbury's. I just remember standing there going, it's not like this in Australia. Oh, like I was overwhelmed. I just wanted some cheddar. And
Oh yeah,
I,
good
I
luck with that.
remember that feeling of being so lost over cheese in the cheese aisle. That's so funny you said that. That's the memory I had. Oh,
Yeah, and
you said you got on
and it,
buses the wrong way, did you?
yeah,
That's
oh
even
yeah, I
worse.
kept doing that all the time. It was driving me crazy. But what it did for me, And I think this is the learning for people.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I did a dramatic change to do this. So I appreciate everyone's in hamster wheels and doing their thing every
Mhm.
day.
Yeah.
But I think what I enabled myself to do moving to a new country was I
Yeah.
had so much time to myself, like so much time. And at
Mm.
first it was so uncomfortable. I was like, my God,
Yeah.
feel really lonely. I feel a bit. And then all of a sudden through this work, I was like, hang on a minute. I got time to work on myself and go inward. So why don't
Yeah.
I use this now while I can before I get
Mm.
settled and build friendships in Sweden and these things and get
Yeah.
into that process again? And that's what I did. I just went on this crazy journey with Kirsty for like 6 months. It was the most
What
incredible transformational thing for me.
what was it
Crazy.
like sitting in the feeling? Because Jeff Way talked about this as well. Like it's uncomfortable for men to sit in their emotions. What was that like in that silence? How did you find the
Mm,
strength to get through that? I mean, it's yeah, that sounds much more painful than it is.
yeah. You know what? I think it is hard, but I do consider myself a little bit connected to myself anyway. And
Yeah.
for me, I was in a place where I was quite broken. So actually,
Yeah.
I just opened up anyway and then just
Mm.
realized just how much work I needed to do
Mm.
and went on that journey.
Yeah.
And the thing is, everything we did, particularly with the grief thing of moving it from
Mm.
inside of me into a ball that I could touch and feel and have maybe
Oh, I
control
love
of, but
that.
just to kind of bring it out and love it and appreciate it and take the learning from it. And it's still here today. Like
Mm.
it's here, right here, right now. Like that's the
Yeah.
grief of my dad, and it's not in me as much anymore. Of
Yeah.
course, it's a moment in time, and tremendous
It's
learning and
almost,
process to get it there. Mm.
it's almost like when we talk about the inner child, don't we? We talk about your inner child of yourself and on our normal calls, which are meant to be about work, but never are. It's almost like the grief is like that. You can,
Mm.
oh, okay, so I'm feeling sad today. So what does the grief need? It sounds like you're
Yeah.
almost like, what do I, and therefore you're giving that to yourself, that comfort and that nurturing. And
Yeah,
oh,
the
that
man
sounds
and the boy. I
amazing.
mean, the man and the boy. I mean, it happened.
Mm.
My boy, appears regularly, and
Yeah.
I know we've gone. I just give it a cuddle. It's
Everyone's
okay.
does.
It's all going to be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's all part of it. It's all
Yeah.
part of it.
So what was the most eye-opening moment you had? Was it through that? I know obviously I've seen you've done crazy like breathing techniques and ice baths and all sorts, but what's been your
Yeah.
most amazing thing that you've done and you've gone, wow.
Oh,
Like,
that's okay. So the thing is,
it can be more than
once.
one. You're allowed to share as many as you wish, as
Yeah.
long
So
as we
once,
fit
I
in
mean,
the 30 minutes.
the amazing thing about this is when you start, you want to keep going
Yeah.
curious. I mean, for me, it's like just
Yeah.
growth and keep going, keep learning, keep
Mhm.
adapting, keep developing. And I'd say one of the most profound moments for me was,
Mm.
well, one of them. I'll share a few.
Mm.
Kirsty, she got me to basically. I took a we have a boat, and we took a boat. I took a boat out to an island in
Mhm.
near where down in the summer house, and it was
Yeah.
like literally just went out to this island. I spent time there on my own, and I did a ceremony for my dad. And it was like I built a fire, I wrote loads of stuff down, like stuff I
Ah,
want to tell, stuff I want to just let go of and forgive and do all these things. And then I just
yeah.
sat there and burnt them and did that whole process, and then
Mm.
stripped naked and then jumped in the lake and just lay there with the sky, just like lying there, just
Amazing.
as a
Letting it all go.
human in a lake.
Yeah.
And that was part of that building. The other one as well, and let's not forget this, is that there are childhood elements that really do come into play, and lots of things
Mhm.
that get called out, particularly
Yeah.
if you don't have that opportunity to talk about those things before a passing of a parent. It
Mm.
can, and not in all
Mm.
instances, but in my instance it got
Yeah.
called out. And I just remember doing this meditative kind of therapy session with Kirsty,
Mm.
and my God, I went back to my childhood home and did some crazy
Mhm.
reconnecting into that feeling of that child being 7 or 8, and
Yeah.
where are my parents placed in the house? Where's my sister placed? What do I associate my
Mm.
sister to? Who was
Mm.
upstairs? And laughter and joking. I always associate my
Mm.
sister because we always do joke together.
Yeah.
It's the kind of scouse thing that we have. Um, yeah, and then just realizing, then using that kind of approach to kind of go, what's that relationship at that point when you need that relationship, and what was it giving you? And I'd never even thought about going back to our house in Liverpool as a 7-year-old through the eyes of me as a 7-year-old and making those connections again.
Yeah.
I was in pieces after that, but I also helped me realize what was missing in my
Yeah.
relationship, and that
Yeah.
was really profound for me, because it helped me heal that and go,
Exactly.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I assume Kirsty did the same as Michelle did with me. There was a safety in that
Mm,
session when you went back. You're not, because it's like, yes, I mean, I cried, like you cried, and you
mm,
release, and you're a bit shocked, and like, gosh, realizing my father's role and not protecting me, and like how I was abandoned, and that was quite profound as well. Not just I knew what mum had done, um, but there was that safety. Did you feel the same that I did? There was sort of like you'd always leave lighter, like. I often felt like I was walking like 3 feet above the air. So I might have had this whole hour and a half of like sobbing
mm,
uncontrollably as I released all of the feeling.
yeah.
Did you feel that?
Always. And these
Yeah, it's
sessions,
amazing,
anything
isn't it?
from this kind of session, as you mentioned, that like
Mm,
stuff like breath work,
yeah.
I encourage anyone,
Mm,
and I will say this to any man listening today,
yeah.
go and do breath work.
Yeah.
It's there isn't a session every session I walk out going, oh my God, I've been from crying to clarity to feeling
Mm,
light. There is no two session the same. And
yeah.
it's amazing. And it's a really good like maintenance one. So it's a good one of just
Yeah.
keeping in the flow, consistency of just having that ability to release, because we hold on
Yeah.
to so much, like we hold on to it.
Yeah.
And breathwork
You
allows you
just
just to
breathe it out.
empty some, not all, but some of that out.
Yeah.
So I would encourage anyone like Wim Hof on YouTube, if you want to
Mm,
give it a go, just try the
yeah.
taster, or just seek out like a breathwork place and just go and do it. Buy 6
Mm,
sessions, just give it your best shot, relax,
yeah.
go with it, see what happens, and I guarantee you'll get something from it for sure.
That's
I think that,
amazing, isn't it?
yeah,
That
yeah.
feel I just love that feeling of light, because there's always that weird fear that I hear from
Mm,
some people, like they're holding on to their trauma, or they're
mm,
holding on to whatever it is. I mean, it mightn't be as dramatic as trauma, but they're holding on really tightly,
yeah.
thinking, I can't let this go. What will take its place? And like, love, light, feeling happy.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
something completely different as well.
And I would say, and this will also get to my point as well, is I've followed various coaches. I've done some co-active coaching with Chris here in
Mm,
Stockholm, different type of coaching, very interesting,
yeah.
really helped me. I think there was another
So
one
what
with
was it
Donna.
called?
Co-active coaching.
Oh, what does that
And
mean?
it's a very light form of coaching, so it's very
Okay.
on you, and it's more like a buddying side thing rather than an intervention or healing.
Okay.
And it's a
Interesting.
really nice one. I liked it. It was
Yeah.
soft. I can describe it as, it was a really nice
Yeah.
way. And then I think I can't not mention Donna and Cheryl as well, who are
Mm.
in the UK, and they. For my work, there are going to be people who I hope, well, I'm sure will connect with this. When
Mm.
you work somewhere or you do a
Yeah.
career change, and I've done the same thing or worked with my company for 16 years, or I
Yeah.
owned the company for 16 years, that was my identity.
Mm.
Everyone saw my identity. Steve Usher, co-founder or founder of CCA, blah, 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 blah. There was a whole thing.
Mm.
And of course I associated to that. And then when I exited, I was honestly like, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah. What
Like,
the
who am I? Like,
fuck?
and
Yeah.
they helped me. And some crazy stuff in my kitchen, just envisaging stuff and stepping over barriers. And if someone was looking inside my kitchen when I was doing this coaching, they must have thought,
Oh, it
what
sounds
is this guy
amazing.
doing? Like, really, it was real, like acting stuff out. It's hilarious, but
So was
it,
that helping you get behind the mask,
yeah,
kind of to see? Oh,
yeah.
tell us a bit more. Like, describe what you were doing.
So what we
Without going
did.
too personal, obviously,
No,
because
of course it's okay. No,
but
for
it's
me it was.
that. This sounds amazing, because I
So
think there are so many masks.
there's loads of
Like
masks, and
masks.
there's this thing about this appreciation of like what I'd achieved up to that point, and I
Yeah.
just forgot about it all. Like I just
Wow.
forgot it, and then I was like, I'm not good at this. I've got self sabotage kicking in, lacking confidence,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh my god. And then they helped me walk through that journey of CCA, and as I was walking along my kitchen and the timeline, I was picking up these, what in my head was boxes of knowledge. What have you done? What have you created? Like,
Oh,
what did you, and
amazing.
appreciate all of that stuff. And then what was the
Yeah.
blocker? And I just walked through it, and that enabled me to go like, oh, hang on a minute. What are you doing?
I
Like, you got
love
yourself
this.
into this hole. And I had this hole at the beginning. I described this hole I was in.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the coaching with them over
Yeah.
many months, it was actually paved flat with flowers on it. It was all done. Like, I'm through it. I felt great. Now I can move forward. Yeah,
That's
it was good.
amazing.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
actually, it only took months.
yeah,
So it's actually, that's amazing.
yeah. So I would
Oh,
say, if
wow.
you hear a theme here from that moment when I worked with Kirsty, and I'd never
Yeah.
worked, I'd had like a non-exec directors before, but
Mm.
not like a coach. And
Yeah.
if you
It's
look at
different.
any performance, tennis player, coaching is a big component. Mindset, how we set
Yeah.
ourselves up, how we think. Gabby Bernstein, I followed a lot, did a lot of her
Yeah.
work in the US, and
Hmm.
just the one learning I took from her was every day. Imagine how we're seeing the world now is a
Mm.
movie. What
Yeah.
tape we're putting in our head, and
Hmm.
the words we're using, and the narrative, and the tone of that film that we're projecting out is what
Mm.
we're getting back. And you can
Yeah.
choose right now what tape you want to put in your head right now to project out. How do you want to see the world? And
Exactly.
that was a big one for me as well. So I've always sought,
Yeah.
like, continually now, just seeking different coaches, different learning inputs,
Mm.
because the big lesson is, everyone, you can't do it on your own.
You
Can't do it
can't.
on
They
your
give
own.
you that,
Can't do it on your own.
they give you that time that is just for you.
Mm,
No matter who I've been working with, and there's all different people, and right up until now, I'm working with Isabel on my spiritual side. It's my time. Like it's my hour and a half that we're there to focus on me. And it's
mm,
like you've had your coaches to focus on you. And so often, you are playing the role of husband and father and business owner. And it's like putting it all out rather than actually going, no, hang on, I need to stock the tank back up. And it's
yes.
funny how people think it's selfish to like indulge in something that's going to help them. But I
Y-
assume that the impact on your wife, your kids, and your business has been massive as well.
It's been massive. I mean, just the move to Sweden for us was a big one. And
Yeah.
my dad made this, like, he was like Liverpool in the 80s, Thatcher years,
Yeah.
not great.
Wow.
And 84, he was like, he said to my mum, there's nothing here for us. And they moved to London. And
Yeah.
I was the same age as him. And
That'd explain your accent.
there you go. And then my sister, and then I was 9 when I moved to London, and then
Yeah.
my daughter Matilda, she was 9 when she moved here. So there's like
Oh,
really
interesting. Being
weird, kind
around
of interesting
nines.
timings. But the thing is, I've the relationship I have with my kids, and
Mm.
my wife is a big, she's a yoga instructor as well, and she does a lot of spiritual
Yeah.
work and a lot of she's doing the Deepak Chopra coaching at the moment, and
Oh,
we both,
amazing.
like, we support each other. We journal every day. That's another big recommendation, everyone. I remember the first year did that, for 4 or 5 years ago. I was
Mm.
on holiday, and then I actually. You always get a bit 4 or 5 years ago, but we lost about 3 years with COVID. But anyway, it's always hard to remember the dates. But anyway, I did a year, and then I went
I
on holiday.
know. What happened to
It's
the
nuts.
2020s? It's like,
It's nuts. But then
yeah.
I actually sat and
Then
read
this
my
year feels
journal
really long. Last year felt really quick. This year feels really
really
long.
quick.
Like we're only in August, and
I
it's
know.
like, yeah,
I know.
it's all very
Sorry, no,
odd.
but
Anyway,
journaling is very, very good, because
yeah.
if you
So it might
read
have
it
been 8 or
back,
9 years you've been doing that.
probably. That is after. It would have been 7, 8. Yeah, whatever. Anyway,
Anyway,
yeah, no,
so do
it's
you
a great
free write
thing.
or do you? It sounds like when you were releasing the stuff from your dad, you were doing what I call free writing, and that's how I've been connecting to my dad, who's in spirit. I
Mm,
free write to connect to him.
mm.
Was it that sort of just, or do you do it like here 3 good things that happened today? Like how
Here's a
do
good
you
thing.
tend
So
to like what
it's
makes it easy for you?
Yeah,
Because it can be hard.
it can be hard, and I've been through moments where I've been like, oh no, I must do this structure, and we go in this kind of
Yeah,
way of like, and sometimes fuck, just release it, just go, wake up in the morning, and go, what do I want to share today, and just write it down.
yeah,
One thing I would recommend is just put minimum 5. Like, what are you the gratitude, grounding in gratitude,
yeah.
is
It's
enormous, and if you do
huge.
it long
It's
enough,
huge.
consistency over time, it starts to really, embed in your
Yeah.
psyche and how you see the world and
Yeah.
be present, all of these
Slightly
things.
challenging if you have a dog who likes to wake you up. But other than that, but actually, I find as well, it's like such a quick mood shifter, isn't it? So if you
Yeah.
sort of, you wake up and you are feeling a bit down, it's like appreciate you have a bed, appreciate you have a like something warm over you, appreciate, if, particularly here in the current summer inverted commas. But and it's like appreciating food in your fridge and that the bills are paid and like just appreciating every single little thing can really shift the mood
Mm.
as well, which I
I
find
have
quite good.
shifted my mood
Mm,
so many times by just writing and then
yeah.
talking to myself through my writing, and I walk away
Mm,
going, well, I feel way better because of that,
yeah.
and in a completely much better frame of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so
You're
much
not you're
goodness in
not
it.
rolling over, picking up your phone and doom scrolling. Like you're not going
Exactly.
straight into comparison. You're literally in the moment, which is also it's very easy to do that when there are alarm clocks as well. It's like
Yeah.
pick it up and doom
Well,
scroll.
that's something I learned from.
Yeah.
There's a book called Make More Time by Jake Knapp, who actually created the design
Hmm.
sprint format.
Yes.
And I read that and I was like, oh my God. And I deleted also, I haven't been on social since, but I got out of social. I've removed all of these things that are vying for our attention. And the
Yeah.
question you have to ask yourself, if you are somebody who is scrolling on TikTok for an hour,
Mm.
imagine what you could do with 20 minutes of that time by just sitting and
Yeah.
journaling. And we
Yeah. I
when
could
we
do that.
I
Sometimes I
go
do
back to
get
this
stuck in
I
the
go back to
Instagram
this
funnies.
I go back to this infinite thing, right? We only have an amount of time. How much time
Yeah.
do you want to give to a TikTok and be a commodity?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a
Interesting.
big fan of it, I gotta be honest. I'd rather, do the other work. That's my preference anyway. Everyone has
And
their
I
own
do
thing.
find, I've read Johann Harry's book, Stolen Focus, which I cannot recommend enough that everybody read. The
I'm
last
download
chapter blows your mind. It's like, oh my gosh, the
mm,
direction that we are heading as a society is terrifying. Like we must
mm,
stop. So he doesn't solve the distraction problem, but he does talk about that. And even though I've read that, sometimes I do find I'm like, what am I doing? Like it is
mm,
designed to be addictive, but it's not the only reason we're distracted. There's a lot more to it than just the tools. And actually, it's not our fault. That's the other thing. There's a lot of blame put on us as the user, like you've done. Turn off the notifications, take it off your phone, all those sorts of things.
mm.
I find it hard because it's also where I talk about my business and talk about my book. So it's like this balancing act you're playing of don't look
Yes.
at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
It's just time.
interesting.
I mean, it's time well
Yeah.
spent. Where do you want to spend your time? And if you're
Mm,
committed to growing or improving your life, or
yeah.
dealing with grief, or dealing with a challenge, or if you're
Mm,
coming from a negative and you're trying to solve
mm,
some of that in order to heal or move forward with something and
yeah.
go, then you've got to put in the work. And
Mm,
consistency is king with anything. And whether it's
mm,
you creating content or you're working on yourself or you're journaling,
yeah.
if you do journaling every day for a year, I promise you, when you read that back, you will
Yeah.
see so much insight
Yeah.
and all the ticks that you have and how you're thinking and all of the
Mm.
themes that you go, oh my God. And it
Do you
enables you
spot
to focus.
patterns
Oh,
as
loads of
well?
them. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. It's great. It's really good. But
Would you
you
s
need to do the work. 10 minutes a day.
Yeah, I agree, but would you also still recommend having that person, like having that coach as well? Because I'm thinking of a
100%.
situation recently where I put a mirror up to you, didn't I, with the situation you were
Mm.
going through, which we shan't go into.
Yes.
But it was like, do you still think, yeah, that helps, doesn't it? If you're
Of
still,
course it does.
yeah, I think I'll always be working with someone. I can't imagine not, because it's
Yeah.
just, I'd
You
like
know,
to be like on my deathbed going, yes, and I'm still working on myself. I'm
I mean,
still
look,
discovering things.
we're hearing this narrative that the world's becoming more polarized, and all of these
Hmm.
things, and we're becoming more separated than ever. And
Yeah,
if you choose what you want to believe in
yeah,
those
yeah.
stories, but we're hardwired to connect,
To connect.
and the more tech that is coming, the
Mm,
more we have to ground in human
yeah,
fact. And
yeah.
so that's the reality, and we've all got a job to do on that individually and then
Mm,
together. And
yeah.
yeah. It's a journey. It's a journey. And one thing I have learned as well: everyone is having some form of something going on, And so we do also need to, it has definitely, particularly with the design thinking training, combining this work on myself, you realize, holy shit, this drives my behavior and sometimes how I act towards others or how I am. Then if I see that in another situation, then I also have to stop myself from judgment and go, there must be something must be happening on their side, or something. I don't know. It just changes that lens to give you a filter to not just jump into judgment, which is so easy to do, to go in with empathy, and support. Yeah.
I think that's when you also know that you've really got to that point where you're like well along your healing journey, stroke healed, is when you can look at the person that perhaps has caused you some trauma or is hitting a trigger or whatever they're doing with complete compassion.
Yeah.
And I sort of realized, like, I can look at both my parents with utter compassion for my childhood trauma. And it's like, that really helps. But you're so right, in situations, you made me think of, those dreadful upstairs neighbors I had at the last place, how I could see the trauma in the family and could understand their behavior. It didn't mean I enjoyed their behavior, but it was that you're absolutely right. And it's, I think, as the world, it is getting polarized. I think it's getting, we've talked about third dimensional energy and the fifth dimensional energy, and I do see that split between those who are aware that we are all connected and that we can create an amazing good, to those who are really clinging onto the fear and the drama. And I think it's even more important that those of us who are choosing to ascend and choosing to heal need to show such compassion for those who perhaps are just too scared to do so.
Yeah.
Which is, we're going to need more of that.
We do.
Interesting times ahead.
We are indeed.
Ooh.
Yeah.
If people would like to connect with you to find out more, maybe about the breath work you've done, or connect to your coaches, what's the best place for you?
Not social.
What's easiest?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn is meant to be social, is it not? No,
well, yeah, but it's business. No, it's LinkedIn.
Social network. Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Send your LinkedIn,
Steve
and
Usher.
obviously mention the podcast so you know where you heard it from. But you do have a business website as well. You're doing amazing things in employee experience.
I do, yeah. So co-founder of Wonder, and our hashtag is more human experiences. So it's bringing more human to the workplace, and of course, post-COVID, it's never been a better time to design for humans. So. I guess you can all sense a bit of a theme now in my life for the last 7-8 years. It's design, it's human, it's empathy, all of these things. So I'm privileged. I'm super privileged. I'm on a new journey, a new identity, new space, new life.
And actually, your new identity isn't a mask.
No,
it's you.
Yeah,
it's not a front.
No.
And you're pretending to. Yeah.
I did the work to do that.
I know. I'm glad we get to chat every fortnight.
I know. I love it. You're a good friend, Katrina. It's all good.
You too. Always. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Damage of Words. How brave, how vulnerable. All to inspire listeners like you to take a step, or inspire others to take a step. Imagine what healing we could create if we normalize this conversation. So please pass this on, and of course subscribe, so we can do just that. Until next time, thank you.